Come join Melissa and her guests on the Chats from the Blog Cabin podcast. From North Carolina, this podcast will have you feeling like you've known these folks for years. Listen in as they chat about life, culture, current events, and more, all with a special Southern flair. Curl up with your favorite beverage and get ready to be entertained. Tune in now for a unique experience that's fun and insightful.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Chats from the Blog Cabin. You know, the show where I virtually invite people into the Blog Cabin to chat about life. And today we're chatting about home design functionality with the founder and CEO of Solight Design, Alice. Welcome, Alice. Before we start talking about the whole topic of the conversation, tell us a little about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Melissa. It's an honor to be here. I'm Alice, and I am an inventor and a social entrepreneur. And I have a company called Solight Design, where I invented a new type of solar light that was originally for disaster relief after the Haiti earthquake. So my interest in solar innovation stemmed from my son being born with asthma and the realization that the planet is in turmoil, pollution, especially in cities. 75% of the pollution comes from buildings, not the cars. And it has had a detriment to the health of our families and our children. So I decided to focus on solar energy. And then I was teaching at Columbia University in the architecture program and also teaching material technology. And the trend in material technology is that everything is getting thinner, lighter, faster, and smarter. And early on, I was sewing solar panels to fabric and thin film substrates with the idea of harnessing the energy from a thin surface. And then the Haiti earthquake happened. And with climate change, there's a 60 to 70% increase in hurricanes, earthquakes, and as you know from the news right now, earthquake in Turkey, war in Ukraine, hurricanes, worst it's ever been in the United States with Ian and Irma and Fiona. Just this past year, when in 2010, when the earthquake happened, I just leaned in and said, we have to do something about this, and let's see what we can do here in Haiti. And that's when we realized only 10% of the country was electrified, and everyone was using kerosene to light their world at night, which is a deadly toxic fuel. Mm-hmm. And I researched every solar light out there, and they were all heavy, hard plastic, non-recyclable, bulky, and ugly. And I grew up doing origami. I'm Korean. My mother taught me origami when I was a little girl, and origami is the beauty of folding paper, and it's a beautiful art because it's science and art together. You have proportion, mathematics, but also creativity. So as far as the imagination will take you, you can create anything with folding paper. So I was inspired by the origami balloon, and this little light is foldable, and it twists open into a cube. It inflates on its own, and you have low setting, you have warm setting, you have high setting, and blinking for distress signal or for a disco party, and then off. And so this is very compact. You can save money on shipping costs because it takes up very little room. You can put hundreds in a box instead of maybe 10 of the regular lanterns. And this has been used for disaster relief all over the world, but people in the United States really like them for their home, for their garden, for their patio, for their pool. for camping, hiking, also for parties. They love them because you can put them anywhere for an event. And then we have this product, which I named after my son, and this is called the Quinn. And this is a bigger light that, again, origami. It opens like this and into a big, big lamp. And it also charges phones. So having your phone charged is a critical item that you need for survival, but also just for everyday life. I'm sure you walk around with your phone all the time, Melissa.
Yes.
But this is a really big light, has 600 lumens, and this is also used for disaster relief, but this is really a kind of design item. It's sold at the MoMA Design store. Actually, so is the little light. The solar puff light is also sold at the design store. And we have a whole range of different solar lights, all harnessing the power of the sun. And with that, we have a social mission, which is to bring light to regions that are in distress. And I just came back from Ukraine to deliver lights to children. Some of our lights, which are colored, have wonderful healing capabilities with PTSD and trauma with children, and they were used for PTSD for children after Hurricane Maria. And that's one of the reasons why I went to Ukraine to deliver our lights, because so many children in Ukraine are have extreme trauma from the blackouts and the bombings. And as you know, all children are afraid of the dark. So that was just recently. So but in the United States, again, like, people love them for any occasion. And I like to think that the design of our pieces are unique, and they're beautiful. So they'll look good on a table in New York or a cabin upstate, or a tent in a human settlement in Turkey. So there's utility, and then there's beauty, wonder, and awe, which I think is just as important as utility.
That is so true. And I will say that I was your press representative sent me one, but my daughter has a degree in interior architecture, and she stole my light and took it to her house.
We'll send you another one. Oh, that's so sweet.
She saw it. She's like, this is so cool, because she's a lead green associate, which is, she's, if you're in interior architecture and architecture, you know that they try to do things with green products to make the environment friendly. And she's like, I have to have this for my house. And she took it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's great. And kudos to you, Mom, for raising such a great daughter that knows so much about the world and how important sustainability is.
It's funny because the other daughter is actually getting her PhD in environmental toxicology and public health.
That's amazing. Congratulations, Melissa. You're a great mom.
And so you're a great mom too, for naming one of your lights after your son, which I think is pretty cool, because it all started with him, right? This company?
It did. The interest in the environment and our children's health is really, when you look at the data, it's just astounding how important it is to really think differently about how we use energy, how we think about the environment and sustainability. So I like to think that everything happens for a reason, and that everything we learn is something that we uncover that's already inside us. So anyway, it's been a very hard journey, starting a company, inventing something, going through the patent process, and let alone trying to stick to our mission, which is really my passion, which is helping those families that are really in distress and really need light to survive. That's, I would guess, the impetus for all of the new inventions that I work on. There always seems to be some sort of crisis, and my brain works like, this is a big problem, and how can we solve this? And then how can we solve this through design? I like to think that being an entrepreneur, but also being an architect, it's not about creating possible realities. It's about creating real possibilities.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. We need to take a brief commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about why it's important to do a lot of green materials in your home. So we'll be right back.
People welcomed me, and they knew the pain of the journey that we'd been on because they'd been there too.
Other Parents Like Me is an online community, peer-led, for parents with kids struggling with mental health and or substances.
It's a space that's safe. Feels like I can actually share what's going on.
We offer 15 daily support groups per week and live speaker talks on Thursdays, as well as a monthly expert panel.
We also have a resource hub that has a toolkit. This includes over 1,000 articles, podcasts. There's a glossary with the most recent and relevant terms. And we have a directory that's been vetted.
The overwhelming feeling when we're sitting in a meeting and I'm telling my story and I see others shaking their head, tears falling, they understand this roller coaster and they're along for the ride.
And we're back chatting with Alice. Alice is the CEO and inventor, founder of Solight-Designs, which is an origami solar light, which is so cool. You talked about how the hurricane in Haiti really spurred you to getting in and creating this product. Take us step by step, your thought process through that.
So I was teaching architecture at Columbia University, and when the Haiti earthquake happened, it was after witnessing things like Hurricane Katrina, the tsunami in Japan, flooding in Pakistan. And so at that point I said, this is not going to stop, and we need to do something. And I decided to change my studio around at Columbia to be an innovation studio to help Haiti. And we did a lot of research on what was happening there. And it turned out that it was really a microcosm of what was happening globally, that the majority of the planet lives without reliable electricity. Even in places like Puerto Rico, there's blackouts and brownouts continuously. And let alone the countries that are, don't have infrastructure, which is about 2.6 billion people live without access, and they rely on kerosene to light their world at night, which is a deadly toxic fuel. One of my visits early on, very early in Haiti, I made 500 of these solar puffs that flat pack and pop open. I glued them together and with duct tape, and they were my early prototypes. And I field tested them for 5 years, and I met this woman who was a farmer on the Central Plateau, and she couldn't afford to have the glass to go around her kerosene lamp. And she had 5 kids in a one-room house. And she said the kids were coughing and, burning eyes from the smoke. And it was so bad, they were having trouble doing their homework at night. And when I gave her the light, she said, this is a gift from God. And when I gave it to the other women farmers, they started to sing and dance. And so that was kind of the moment where I felt like I could really help, because they were spending 30% of their income on kerosene every month. And what if they could save that money for food and clothing and education for their kids? So I became a social entrepreneur at that point. And since then, and actually in 2010, I went to a Green Tech Expo, which was hosted by the Clinton Foundation, and in walks Bill Clinton. And I showed him this prototype that was glued and duct taped together, and he really liked it. And he was like, wow, come over here. Come look at this. Look at this. And fast forward 7 years, when the Hurricane Maria happened in Puerto Rico, we were at a point where we could partner with nonprofit organizations, and we got over 100,000 lights to Puerto Rico. I think at that point there were like 3 million people that didn't have electricity in Puerto Rico because of the damage of the hurricane. And so what's nice to experience is the incredible kindness and generosity of people like you, people like our supporters that help donate a light when it's needed in times of crises. So we usually do campaigns when there is the need. And I'm happy to say that all of our customers, they just love our lights, and they just keep giving them away as gifts. So they keep coming back and buying more, and they use them at home. But whenever we do have the need for getting light to regions like Ukraine or Turkey, they come forward in herds in support, which I feel very blessed and fortunate.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, tell people what a social entrepreneur is, because I know a lot of people don't know exactly what that phrase means.
So our company has a social mission. So I call it a for-purpose company instead of a for-profit company. And a social entrepreneur, the bottom line, like if you have a company, you do need to make revenue, you need to pay people, you need to have a salary. But also the mission of the company is to help make lives better and to bring light to people in need. So that's the social aspect of it, that people, purpose, and profit.
What made you decide? I know all this stuff happening, but a lot of people will look at stuff that's happening in other parts of the country or other parts of the world and think it doesn't affect me. What made you think, okay, I've got to do something about this? What was your trigger point to say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to send these lights, and this is the reason why we're doing this?
Well, all right. Well, you kind of have to go back a little bit too with the history of the United States. And the first time that we were really, really hit with what was happening in the Middle East was 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they totally decimated, Manhattan. And it was a big turning point for all of us in the United States. And I kept thinking that, those men that were flying the plane, what were their childhoods like? And you do the research, and these kids in extreme poverty, they're taken in by the militia. Mm-hmm. And very young, 6 years old, and they're trained their entire life to do a mission like that. And, even though that's happening in the Middle East, we had a part of that in a way. And then also the issue of climate change, for instance, every one of us took part in polluting the earth by throwing away a fork, mm-hmm. throwing away a plastic water bottle. And it's just one little thing, but you multiply that by 7 billion people, we've created an island the size of Texas in the North Pacific, which is called the North Pacific Gyre. And Mother Nature has pooled all of the plastic in the oceans, creating this island, and it's growing by the day. And I thought we all had a part of that, a little part of that. And if we all had a part of that, we all have the power to heal the planet as well. So if we all work together, and that's kind of our mission for our company, is that small things matter, that one person can make a difference. One act can make a difference. So if you multiply that, if you share that story, if you share that passion and knowledge with your family, your neighborhood, your city, the ripple effect of that can be tremendous. And we're all drops in the ocean, but together we can move the moon.
That's so true. Now, you talked about, the climate change. So how can we switch to green lighting? Why is it better? Why should we switch to green lighting?
So one person using a regular light bulb for 4 hours every night, just one person can create 90 pounds of carbon emissions. Multiply that by 200 million people, which is the United States. That comes to 11 billion tons of carbon emissions. So you can see that whole aspect of how small things matter combined collectively becomes immense and tremendous. And I think that we all have the power to make a difference in small ways. And that is one aspect of it. If you go to phone charging, that's even more than lighting. It's like 3 or 4 times more than lighting. So carbon emissions, using fossil fuels, that is something that we need to get away from. And solar energy, and part of my mission when I bring these lights to regions of need, children are really important to me, and I've gone to many schools in these regions, and I tell them that the sun is the most powerful source of energy that comes to the earth every day. It's so powerful that it can give everyone on the planet, 7 billion people, a light bulb that will shine bright your entire lifetime. But the light of your mind and the light of your heart is more powerful than the sun. And if you keep fighting with that light, there's nothing you can't do. And it's the greatest weapon that you can use against injustice, poverty, prejudice. So I grew up very poor, and I was beat up because I didn't look like everyone else. I was the only Asian, and I became a fighter, but I didn't fight with my fists. I fought with the light in my mind and my heart. And this is what the lesson is in terms of what we try to incorporate in our company and our products, is that we're all empowered, and you're empowered. You have a light inside you that's fighting to be unleashed into the world. And if you keep fighting with that light, there's nothing you can't do. You can move mountains and achieve your dreams and ambitions. So it's not just about the product for us, it's really about the message of help is not out there, it's actually in your hands.
I love that. Everything you're saying right now, in my mind, I'm going, yep, she's a teacher, because you're trying to teach kids. So you are a professor. So yep, that checks that box. And then then you're an integrator, an entrepreneur. You created this design, everything. You're living out your message. It's not just, oh, this is the message of my company. You're actually living out the message of your company and making sure that the world is a better place, not only through your designs, but also through going in and showing these kids and implementing it, that, hey, you don't always have to be like this. This is my story, and sharing it.
Yeah, it's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's a lot of people tell me not to go to Haiti. People tell me not to go to Ukraine, that I'll be shot, I'll be bombed, I'll be killed. But I go anyway because I believe that there's always another side to the story that needs to be told. And whenever you go through borders of zones of fear, I call them zones of fear, you're going through zones of fear to break through prejudice and self-pity and to a place of enduring acceptance. And the stories of resilience and perseverance and kindness that you come across in these zones are incredible. And I always come back with the most amazing stories of great heroism and kindness and courage.
Do you have one that you can share with us?
So when I was in Ukraine, I went to 3 children's hospitals and 2 refugee camps. And basically, when the bombing started, the Russians were bombing the power stations, which is a very critical terrorist act to put everyone in darkness, because there's a psychological kind of trauma that happens when you go home and you have no light. But for the children, it's traumatic as like even more, because not only are they afraid of the dark, but they have like literally trauma where they can't settle down for hours. And so our lights tend to calm them. The colored lights, especially, they use them as night lights. They use, green light is used for headaches. Blue light is used for depression. So that's why I decided to help the children and go there. There's this one little boy that lost his leg in a bombing in his little village. I met another little girl who witnessed 12 of her family members shot and killed in front of her. She was the only person that survived. And when I give them the light, they're so happy, and they smile and they laugh for the first time, but also they're so incredibly grateful and kind. And one boy was saying how he would use it for camping when he went back to his village, and that he and his sisters loved to go out to the woods near his house to camp. And I was thinking, this is just like our kids. These kids are the same as our kids, and it's almost like, these kids are my kids too, in a way. And he had so much hope for what he was going to do next, even though he had lost his limb. And I was thinking that if anyone in the world, you wouldn't blame these kids if they had a lot of hate in them, if they were spiteful. But these kids were not hateful at all. In fact, they were just kind of just happy that we were there and getting this light and imagining a better future. And one little boy who had a broken leg, 2 years old, just kind of hobbling and trying to run, taking his light, and then he hobbled and ran back to me, and he was dragging his friend, and he was like pointing to his friend, give him a light too. So the generosity, and kindness is, especially for these kids, right? Because what they've been through, we couldn't imagine, right? We've never gone through that kind of turmoil, but their resilience was outstanding. And it gives me a lot of hope for humanity and the world.
Now, when you take these trips, at what point do you made the decision, you're going to take the trip. How long does it take you to actually, once you've made the decision, to actually be on the boots on the ground at the place of crisis?
So for Ukraine, I decided around Thanksgiving. And so it was about a month. I raised from donors so I could bring more lights with me and send more lights. And I already started communication with the woman that is a nurse in one of the children's hospitals. And basically that's how I learned about what was happening with the kids and the trauma. And then I decided to go meet her, this nurse, at the hospital. And then she connected me with another hospital and then another. And that was in Lviv, Ukraine. And then actually I had no one in Kyiv. And I knew I wanted to go to Kyiv as well. I knew there was a big, huge children's hospital there. And I had the privilege of being on this show called Gutsy Women with Hillary Clinton and Chelsea Clinton, where they came to my house and filmed. So I asked Hillary, do you know anyone in Ukraine? And she gave me this one person's name, and it was a daisy chain and ripple effect of all of these other people that I had to meet through this one person before I got into Ahmedid Children's Hospital in Kyiv, and I was able to get there and deliver the light. So sometimes I don't even know a contact in, like, for instance, in Kyiv until I actually got into Ukraine. Another story is when I went to Dominica, I didn't know who I was going to meet in Dominica. Dominica is a very small island in the Caribbean, and it has the oldest tribe of indigenous Indians there called the Kalinago, and they were hit the hardest after Hurricane Maria. They had nothing left, and I just hopped on a plane and went, and I had 1,000 solar lights in my luggage, and I took a puddle jumper plane from Barbados to Dominica, and I sat next to this young man who was just lovely, and I told him what I wanted to do, which is get to the Kalinago. And he said, oh, my father, you should talk to my father. He's, friends with the chief of the Kalinago. And he gets on the phone and he puts the phone in my ear, and I, said hello. And the guy said, I'm Patrick Hill. I'm the, former senator of the British Virgin Islands. And I told him who I was, and he said, oh, we've heard of you. We've been expecting you. When you get off the plane, come to our house. And wow, I did it. I got off the plane, went to his house, and he and his wife within 2 hours had meetings for me at 7 different schools in the Kalinago. And I was able to distribute all the lights to the children there.
Wow. That's talking about living out your purpose. Is there anybody else that goes with you on these missions, or just you?
Sometimes they do. And like Dominica, someone from my company came. When I went to Puerto Rico, I also went with like another nonprofit that we're partnered with. We partner with a bunch of different nonprofits that deal with disaster relief. But for Ukraine, since it was a war zone, I kind of felt bad. Like, some people wanted to come with me, and I said, I kind of don't want you to go, because if it's dangerous, I don't want anything to happen to you. Like, I'd feel better if I could do it on my own first, and then you can come with me next time. Because I just wanted to make sure that I could make it in and out. But Ukraine was, compared to Haiti, Ukraine was a piece of cake, honestly.
Oh, wow. Now, has your son ever gone on any of these with you?
He went to Puerto Rico with me, but he's in school. And no, I came back to Ukraine. I said, it'd be great if you could come to Ukraine with me. And he was into it. But right now he's in college. He's a freshman in college. So I'd love it if he could come with me next time, honestly. But anyway, I think that the real reason why I go is really to share the story of being able to give the light, but also showing them that I've come halfway across the world to bring this to you because you matter and we care about you. And that's something that you can't do over shipping something or doing over Zoom. So, and the impact is immense from that.
For sure. I can't even imagine, first of all, you probably have to go through a lot of red tape as well. Is there a lot of red tape when it starts going to them?
I was afraid that there was going to be a lot of red tape because people were telling me, you're not going to get across the border. They're going to stop you and all of this stuff. But when I got there, and I made sure to find out from other people that were on the border, working on the border, what the situation was, and basically found out that if you have a U.S. passport, you're not going to have issues going across the border from Poland to Ukraine. There's no flights into Ukraine, so you have to fly into Poland and then take a train from Poland into Ukraine. So, so I had no issues because I had an American passport.
Wow. I can't even imagine, first of all, deciding that you're going to go and you're going into a war-torn country and you're going to tell these kids and tell these people that you're loved and that someone else across the world loves you. But not only are you doing it for them, but you're doing it for yourself. It's making you feel describe to me, how do you feel when they take that light from you and their light just shines up in their faces?
Well, it's kind of incredible. Like when I'm there, when I first get into the hospital, the adrenaline, the blood starts racing through your body, and you're so pumped to meet these kids, first of all, and see their reactions. And they just, they think it's magic because it's, this little flat thing, and then it pops open into a cube, a perfect cube. And the delight in their eyes is amazing, but also their mothers, like a couple of the mothers that were in the rooms with their children, they started crying. And then the mother's friends or the aunt or the neighbor that was there wanted one for their kids that were at home. And it's just kind of exciting. And I don't know, it's the reason why I invented this thing. So it's really, people say I'm going there to give this to them, but the gift that I get back from them is far greater as a reward for me. And I learned so much from being there, about the culture, about the people, and the history, which I never knew before. And then I see ties between their culture and my culture, of the United States culture, and also the Korean culture. So you're right, Melissa, that it is something that gives me joy. And part of it is not knowing what's going to happen. And part of it is the excitement of traveling to places that have never been done before. So, but in the end, it's kind of like they're all using it for their homes too, because like we were in the kitchen eating dinner in one home. These two little girls that were guitarists, we went to their little home, and I was in Kyiv, and I did have a crew of ABC camera people following me because I ended up on Good Morning America while I was in Ukraine, and I had this television crew following me around all of Kyiv, and we went to this little tiny house, and I swear the crew took up the whole space of this person's house. Like we had to tell half of them to stay out. But we went into the kitchen and the mother was cooking all day expecting us, and she cooked this borscht that was amazing. Like I really didn't like borscht when I mean, I don't know if you've had borscht, but it's not very good, but this woman's borscht was pretty phenomenal, and the whole kitchen was lit up with our lights, and it looked great in their kitchen. It didn't look like they were camping or even, I guess if it was a campsite, it would look elegant in a campsite, but it was something that it didn't look like an emergency situation when our lights were lighting up the kitchen.
Wow, I just love that. Now, how long do the lights last?
So on a full day's charge, it should last 6 to 8 hours. If you only get 4 hours of light, sunlight on it, you'll get about 4 hours of light from the lamp. I've had some people put the solar panel on a lamp, like a regular lamp, and it actually charged from the lamp too. But ideally you want bright sunlight. If it's a cloudy day, it'll probably take a little longer. And then some of our early backers, when we did our first Kickstarter in 2015, some of them are saying theirs is still going strong after 7 years. Some of them, like after three or 5 years. But one of our products, it's a thermoplastic, and that is biodegradable. So in certain conditions, like in Haiti, where the sun is so strong and hot, it'll degrade, and it just kind of ends up like just kind of flakes in the end as it biodegrades. And then the other product, the solar puff, we have a sailcloth material which is recyclable and non-toxic, and that is UV coated and really engineered for extreme weather.
Have you ever gone back to the places that you've given the lights to see the difference the lights has made later on?
I have, yeah. And some of them, like it almost looks like leather the way but it's still working. It's so kind of indestructible. And then I'm gonna go back to Ukraine and see how some of the kids are doing, or the people that we gave the lights to. And they tell stories of how they use it every day for cooking for their children in the morning, before they go to school, or using it for when they elderly have to go to the bathroom a couple times a night, and they use it to get from their bed to the bathroom instead of like flipping on the big light and waking up their partner and things like that.
I can see the usefulness of that. I never even thought about that. But yeah, definitely. If you don't want to turn the light on, if the light switch is way across the room and you're getting up out of bed, you don't know if the dog's down there and you're going to trip over the dog. Or
right, exactly. Yeah, you could just keep it by your bedside and have it as an ambiance light or a reading light in bed if your partner's sleeping on the other side and you want to use it for reading. Or if you're going to the bathroom and, don't want to trip over the dog, like you said.
So our time is almost up, Alice. Before we talk about, before we talk about where people can find you or find your lights, is there one last little nugget that you want to leave people with?
So I think that basically there's this old saying by this Chief Seattle, that in the web of life, we think that, the web of life and the world affects us and we affect the world, but actually we're just a thread within that web, and whatever we do affects the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And also vice versa. So we need to be conscious of that and act accordingly so that we can better the world and help. So I guess that's it. And I really really want to encourage girls and women to follow your dreams and be ambitious and become inventors, because in the United States only 8% of the patents in the United States Patent and Trademark Office, only 8% are women on those patents. And then in terms of businesses, out of $85 billion of investments, only 3% go to women-owned businesses. So I believe that women really need to be supported, and especially young girls.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother of invention is necessity. The daughter of invention is curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Two female characters. And so this is in our DNA and should be cherished and nurtured and unleashed into the world.
I love that. Cherished and nurtured and unleashed in the world. And that's what you've done with your company. So let's talk about where they can find your products.
Oh, look at you. Melissa, you're really badass. So Solight-Design.com, that's our website. And you can buy our products from our website, Solight-Design.com. And if you want to give a light to Ukraine or Turkey, we have a Give a Light page where you can donate a light, and you know exactly where your money's going. It's going to a light for these regions, for a refugee or an earthquake victim. So, Melissa, thank you so much for your time today, and it's absolute pleasure to meet such a wonderful and badass woman like you.
And same back at you. I was fixing to say the same thing. I mean, because you don't see a lot of women entrepreneurs going out into the world and creating such a company that not only has a company that has a heart to give back, but a company that also supports and loves the people that they give back to.
Thank you, Melissa. This is an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
All right. Once again, thank you, Alice. I will put in the show notes where you can find Alice, as well as if you want to donate. I'll put a separate link of where you want to, if you want to donate a light. And I will tell you firsthand, like I said before, they're beautiful. And if you're going to buy one for yourself and you have children, go ahead and buy a couple more, because they're going to steal yours. So you might as well just go ahead and cut it off at the pass.
Oh, love it.
So we'll see you on the next chat from the Blog Cabin. Bye.